Welcome to Compliance Chronicles, where we learn from professionals shaping the world of compliance. I'm your host, Liisa Thomas, outside privacy and compliance counsel, an adjunct professor at Northwestern Law School, and a lifelong learner of organizational change. From personal journeys to hard-earned lessons, these are the chronicles that inspire and guide. Let's dive in. We're back with another Compliance Chronicle episode, and this time I am thrilled to welcome Katie, who I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
My name is Katie, and I am currently working for a large company as an internal auditor. I am a qualified British solicitor in England and Wales. I'm a New Yorker, but not a New York lawyer. I'm a solicitor, and I specialized in data privacy. I had a whole life before I became a lawyer, and I was working in the entertainment and music industry in London for a long time, like 12 years, and I thought it would be fun to go to law school.
So let's talk a little bit about that journey. So you are now working as an auditor in the compliance privacy space, but lots of related things. How did you get to where you are from the entertainment industry to the privacy world?
I went to Syracuse University, and I have a degree in photojournalism from Newhouse School of Public Communications. And that was about, telling stories. And we also had to touch on, when I was studying, things like libel. It's very similar to data privacy in that you have to do the balancing act. And I moved to London, and I ended up working in the music and entertainment industry doing PR and marketing. And I ran my own PR and marketing for a long time. And a lot of issues came up around protecting people's art. So IP issues, and also around regulatory issues for entertainment licensing. So I was creative myself, so could always speak to creative people. The music industry and entertainment industry, they fly close to the sun. And a lot of people are always going to lawyers. I think I could do that. But I was dyslexic, so I wasn't really sure. So on a whim, I applied for law school, Birkbeck. Birkbeck happens to be a center of excellence for dyslexia. And I had never heard of adaptations or anything like that. And they really helped me. At the same time, I started working as a regulator in the entertainment and music industry. I was working with a lot of regulatory legislation. I would like to say I was the fun police, so alcohol, entertainment, theater, football stadium, laser treatments, gambling. And it's interesting because from like compliance, because I came from the other side to begin with, I felt I was quite good because when I was speaking to people as a regulator, I really was like, what do you really want to do? And they're like, well, what can I do? And I said, no, tell me what you really want to do. Like, just tell me your hopes and dreams and let's see what we can do. And with compliance, I think that's a really, really important thing. You really have to understand what people want to do. And if you're the SME, if you understand what the parameters are, you can help people make really good decisions.
Let's turn to some of the challenges you've faced as you've been helping people live their dreams and doing what they want.
Generally, in my experience, and I dealt with thousands of people, they want to do it right. There's a very, very small percentage who just are like, we don't care, we'll see what we can get away with. And I think that my dyslexia, which really helped me, and it really helps me in general now with compliance, because for me to do what I do, I really need context. I really need that understanding. And that comes from talking to people about their objectives. What do you want to do? What do you want to get out of this? And then applying the framework of a compliance into that. So the struggle is getting people on board. But you do that by being interested and curious in what they're doing and explaining it and speaking in their own language, which I think is what the training as a journalist really helped, because you're trained to listen to people and write in the language that they use. Not a lot of lawyers do that. A lot of lawyers work write in lawyer language. And a good lawyer is an interpreter. So I think the training in both really helped. So understanding what they really want out of something and then applying the compliance to that.
What have you learned in your journey so far?
People don't understand that I don't process data. They do. I'm here as your advisor. I'm your trusted advisor. So I'm not here to determine what data that you process, but the how. And it goes, I keep going back to your objective. That was like a big thing that I needed to realize when I was a DPO, a data privacy officer. And as a DPO, explaining that to people, because that was a big learning for me. I thought they understood that. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing the processing, you are.
So tell me about like a situation where that came up, where they thought you were doing the processing instead of them.
It was actually about data retention. We had a retention period, they weren't complying with it, and they didn't see the pitfalls of keeping old data. And so I said, well, the decision was made in general, and I assisted that to create a retention schedule, which you were part of. You said 10 years. And I'm telling you, we've encapsulated that in our privacy notice. And so people, when they give us their personal data, they expect, if they're no longer a customer or whatever, that after 10 years, it will be gone. And they're like, okay. And we have 21 years, I think it was, of some data, like predated some legislation. So, and they were like, well, I don't see what the problem is. And I was like, the problem is we've told people this, and you are retaining it. Okay. And this took a couple months, just trying. I had the ability in a meeting to actually watch the penny drop. It was his decision to not delete the data. It wasn't mine. I couldn't go in and delete the data. It had to be him. The solution was to keep to our retention schedule. That was a big learning. And also when I was a regulator and I did carry out criminal prosecutions, one of the other things is some people don't care. They break the rules. For them, the risk is not being caught and not being fined and not having a criminal. That's not the risk. For them, it's just they're making so much money. I remember being in court and this guy had just been found guilty and he kept like turning around and like he's in front of the panel judges and he's winking at me. And I'm like, that's weird. And because that was a learning, for him, the risk was worth it. And I always felt like if I had to carry out like a prosecution or any kind of enforcement, I felt a failure because I had not communicated well enough to get people within compliance.
Any parting advice for folks that are in this space, whether they're starting out or whether they've been doing this for a while and are looking for some words of encouragement?
If somebody trusts you to come to you for advice, a lot of people want to show off about how smart they are. You need to do this. Get people on side. Be curious. And then when you're giving your advice, try and speak their language. Each audit or each company or each client that you advise, they have their own language. So as much as you can, try and learn their language and speak it, because I think things land better.
That is excellent advice. Katie, thank you so much for sharing this with us, and learn your client's language. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Compliance Chronicles, where we look for guidance and inspiration from the personal journeys of compliance professionals.